To the Poetry Library, and just to say, if you're standing, there are some spare seats, so please take a seat if you like one. So welcome to the Poetry Library. I'm Lorraine Mariner, one of the assistant librarians. The Poetry Library is the most comprehensive and accessible collection of modern poetry in the country, and if you don't already use the library, you'd be very welcome to come along again. We're open every day except Monday from 11 AM to 8 PM. In case of an emergency, fire exits are at the back and front of the library, and if I can please ask you to make sure your mobile phones are switched to silent. And this event is part of our special edition series. Special edition at the Poetry Library takes place on the first Wednesday of every month. Tonight's event is Poets on War, and you'll find the programme on your chair, or you can pick one up on your way out. There can be a misconception in this country that war poetry is covered by regional poets of the First World War that we are taught in school, and we're very pleased to welcome 4 poets to the library this evening who are currently writing about war, attempting to record the wars of the past and address the wars of the present. Listening to the sound check earlier, I think we're in for a challenging and moving event. I'll hand over to Hilda.
Welcome to everybody, and thank you for coming. And we're now going to begin with Ruth, and we're going to start Poets on War. Thank you.
Of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. In this case, it's 3 horsemen and 1 horsewoman, and they're unleashed upon the world by a disgruntled hotel owner who objects to the manner in which they treat his establishment, including the cleaning of their feet. Hotel owner: "Gentlemen, madam, it is impossible for you all to stay within these walls. You can see how the air is blackened as each fly summons his mate to revel in the stench of your sweat. It will bring disease. I need to decide who to loose upon the desert to find other shelter, and so I have held in regard your feet. Your feet are the mirror of your spirit. Whether you walk on my polished marble, quarried at the expense of many men's lives, or feel dragged back as sand hinders you, you should show respect. Your feet are the purveyors of all this information, entitled to expect consideration when, after conveying you safely to your destination, they merit a rest. But do you caress them, fondle each toe, offer a spring's sweet water to slip between, allowing skin to bed with skin, or proffer oil to soften a heel hardened by the weight carried on your journey? No, you trail your dirt over my floor, bellow for wine, figs, honey, as you throw your carcass onto my chair. All this I have noted, and by all this I have chosen. And so, my dear doctor, you who cursed your driver, you may be the first to choose which horse to ride. You three others, do not delude yourselves. You have colluded with this healer. You will be leaving together. And so these four, I've changed their names slightly, Menelaus Joseph, Nimrod Babylos, the Honourable Antonius, and she, are responsible for all the ills that have occurred over the past 21 centuries, including the First World War. A week before the carnage began, Asquith, who was then the Prime Minister, said, "We are within measurable or imaginable distance of a real Armageddon. Happily, there seems to be no reason why we should be anything more than spectators." But I think Death had other ideas in 1914. I am a country without boundaries. I welcome all. All find sanctuary here. There are many roads and tributaries abound. You may travel alone or with a friend. Some arrive still clinging to their enemies, knowing they are moulded from the same clay. It will be the same for you. After bearing many small deaths, I will be the stranger whom you come to love. And in 1914, as today, once you have war, you have patriotism and fanaticism. On the 30th of September 1914, Mrs. Berridge wrote in the Morning Post, "If my own son can best serve England at this juncture by giving his life for her, I would not lift one finger to bring him home. If any act or word of mine should interfere with or take from him his grandest privilege, I could never look him in the face again." But it wasn't only the English mothers that lost their sons. Meine liebe Mutter, you will not expect this letter so soon. I never wrote from our camp in your ham-fisted hands, but you knew I would be home on leave. My face is still wet from the tears you wept as I marched quickly away. I may not say to where. The Kaiser has ordered that those we love now have to be informed if we are injured or if death is imminent. Kaiser wishes to inform you that I conducted myself with honour. We engaged the enemy and the fighting was close, but with my brothers by my side, victory was certain. We did not flinch. It is so important, Mutter, that you understand we never turned our faces away from the enemy. For the very first time, your clumsy, shy son looked, only to see himself, find myself, there in the enemy's eyes, knew the enemy lay in my own. Knew also that it was his first time too, his buttons still bright, as are mine. We both drew handguns. Why? We had bayonets. He was fast. I was faster. We both fell, face to face, yet now I saw in his eyes, felt in my own, no hate. His mouth moved. His message seemed urgent. I tried to lean nearer to hear his words, but his lips went slack, so his breath, a sigh, did not reach my cheek. His left hand lay on my thigh. I held it. We understood. Killing is an intimate act. I am lucid. All is clear. I am not alone. My visitor comes, sniffs, returns each hour. My papers will be sent to you. I have wrapped my friends in mine. His name is Henry. Hans. And World War II again had its own horrors. Lauschein was a small blue card given to Jews, normally referred to as vermin, but these particular Jews were deemed necessary to the German war machine. It meant that they were allowed to stay in the ghettos and die of starvation at some point, but at least it kept them from the death camps. Lauschein. I am blue. I bear no allegiance to him who carries me from fear. I am his life. Without me, deportation from starvation guarantees death. I am the lesser of his two evils. Lose me, and life is grasping water. I am passive. On request, I show my face, his face, to a hard face that demands identification. Laugh as hard face throws me in the dirt, the scrabbling hands stamped upon. I am, you see, without morals. When I was stolen, as he prayed, I left the synagogue, its catalogue of wails soon silenced. I am owned by another now. I parade his face. I am blue. I am passive. I am you. What we often forget is that the abundance in the death camps had their families nearby. Survivor and the sins of the fathers. Then, the trains were not the worst of the matter. Now I know that so many arriving meant so many had died. Father said it was a season of renewal, like corn. I was to obey him at all times. He would protect me. I asked if he meant the thick smoke that harmed lungs. He kissed me, called me son, said nothing of the ash. The ash would creep in. I was forbidden to open my window, forbidden to play outside. That was the worst of the matter. I would hear the others outside. They were silent, marching barefoot on stones. I sang to the tune of the gravel. I envied their game of picking leaves, swallowing them before their guide turned, like in, "What's the time, Mr. Wolf?" When the trees were leafless and the grass gone, they dug in the mud. Father said, "There's nutrients in mud." I knew they liked me. They gave Father toys they'd made, a top from bone, or a doll so real its hair and skin felt like mine. I couldn't thank them, but Father said he'd make sure they knew how matters stood. I never saw them again. I was forbidden to look out, but I heard their high, strange song. That was a day everyone was running. The smoke was thicker. The ash covered the house, entered it. Father shouted at me. He pulled papers, dashed outside with great bundles. The sun glinted on his buttons. Others rushed past, didn't salute. Some soldiers scrabbled at the gate. Father had to discipline them. The gate stayed shut. The soldiers were motionless, playing fish. Mother threw clothes in the case. Father travelled in civilian clothes. In Nuremberg, I heard a sparrow. I think I was 6. Decades before, Woodrow Wilson said, "Once lead people into war, and they'll forget there ever was such a thing as tolerance. The spirit of ruthless brutality will enter into the very fibre of national life, infecting Congress, the court, the policeman on the beat, the man in the street." And so, death places a lace handkerchief over her nose, lifts her gown clear of urine and other matter, slowly rises through the stairwell. She knows the ache for escape lies on the tagged walls, the young yet to realise the release she offers. Her ringed fingers caress a scab of steel, the handrail flakes. On the 14th floor, she slips casually past the slick young man, whose smile reflects his work is done. Death bends gently, notes her silver bangles will not wake the old woman. Death appreciates the young man's art. Commitment to detail leaves the carpet unmarked. Her dimpled wrist brushes a speck of saliva as she adjusts the teeth loose in the mouth. She closes her eyes. Death does not dawdle. She follows him across the arc of this city to visit the righteous and the fashionista. He does not differentiate. His time is precious.
And they shall come from their graves to accompany you on the road, each one plucking the ragged edge of your robe, threading their words with emptiness, God And they shall come from their graves to accompany on the road, each one plucking the ragged edge of your road, threading the woods with emptiness, soft as silk, and you forget the unrest of quiet, the grief of the forgotten, the measurement of a death.
The death politicians have unleashed is immeasurable. In Paris in 1997, Tony Blair said, "Mine is the first generation able to contemplate the possibility that we may live our entire lives without going to war or sending our children to war." That was in 1997. In 2001, he declared war on the Taliban in Afghanistan. And 2 years later, he launched military action against Iraq. Recently, he has proclaimed, "The whole of the Middle East is under threat. We have to liberate ourselves from the notion that we have caused it. We haven't." I don't think the people that are in Aleppo and like places, or those that have to trust themselves to pirates who abandon them to the sea so they drown in hundreds, would agree. They stagger towards hope and last-ditch bid to leave all they have known: war, loss, famine. Sheep crowd. Close the gate. White faces livid with fear threaten, while gestures aim to rid the enclave of the unwelcome. Such vermin. Still they push forward, their coats ragged, so bent on entry they appear rabid. Water cannons repel, but determined sheep crowd close. The gate white, faces livid, abuse, disbelieve, ignore limpid eyes of young, of old. All are assassins. Yet still they push forward. Their coats ragged, they will not be moved. They will go naked if needs be, or eat mud, trap small birds, skin sheep, crowd close. The gate, white faces, livid, yet still they push forward. Their coats ragged.
Ladies and gentlemen, talk among yourselves for at least 30 seconds. Okay. The rest of the evening is going to be a sort of mixture and a toing and froing between Adnan al Sayegh, Lewis, and myself, Hilda Sims. There'll be some music. There'll be a bit of humour, I hope. Not very easy to make humour out of all, but it has its moments. Adnan is going to be reading in Arabic, and Jenny is going to be reading a translation of his poem, and they're going to begin.
سئتم مساء وحبا مقاطع من جيل أوروك. يأتي الغداة وراء الطغاة، ويأتي الطغاة وراء الغزاة، ولا شيء يستبدلون الغلال بأخرى، أسدون بأخرى، ويمضي من العمر جوعا ونفيا وقهرا وهم راسخون على الأرض دهرا فدهرا.
Extract from Uruk's Anthem by Adnan al Sayegh, translated by Jenny Lewis and Ruba Abigail. The invaders come after the tyrants. The tyrants come after the invaders, and nothing happens. They replace handcuffs with other handcuffs, and prisons with other, and time stretches out in hunger, exile, and oppression, while the oppressors keep going generation after generation.
One reason we got involved in doing this was the thought that we're only 17 years into the 21st century, and already we've equalled, if not exceeded, most of the others for the violence and war and stupidity that's been going on. I wrote this poem shortly after the Twin Towers went down, and as I watched that sequence on television, I heard somebody in a New York street saying the words that begin this poem about 21st century war. Holy shit, somebody says, as the first plane hits the tower. A most precise descriptive phrase, the words to fit the hour. The holy shit has hit the fan. It's Eastern versus Western, Crusaders versus Taliban. It's answer versus question. It's jihad versus yeehaw. Nobody knows the score. The very first 21st century war. The holy shit has hit the fan. Let's have a conflagration. It's cruisers to Afghanistan. Take out a generation. It's mullah versus mullah. Everything's gone too far. The very first 21st century war. 3,000 lives in concrete, miles of melted steel, but plenty more to take the rap and keep disaster real. Those migrants on the Khyber Pass, they know there's hell to pay. Who cares if they're the guilty ones or just get in the way? The holy shit has hit the fan. Get ready for a showdown. It's Islam versus Uncle Sam, and who knows which side God's on. It's plunder, rape and gore. Stay home and bar the door. The very first 21st century war.
Hospital barge on the Tigris. In April, the desert blooms, even in war, flowering earlier than a Welsh spring. Clustered along the riverbank, rain-scented on a bare, wind-blown canvas, mallow, shepherd's purse, early sown green barley, yellow trefoil and wild mustard, each day budding with promise of more. And on the Tigris, a slow hospital ship carries the wounded, so recently young boys, running home from school down weed-skirted lanes. Now tents of white skin hanging slack on frames of bone. Flies buzz in their mouths, the noise drowned by the wheel's revolving slap.
مقاطع من نشيد أوروكا أخرى. يجيء المغول على خيلنا الضامرات تخوض في دمنا أزرقا كالمحاذر أو أحمرا في المحاجر. تأتي المدافع يأتي الوشاة فتنسل جندرمة الإنجليز إلى بيت شعلان. تأتي جيوش أمية من سورة الفتح. أشير إلى الأفق أسود من ذرق الطائرات. يقهقه حبود وهو يشير إلى ثقب سترته من هنا مرت الحرب. أيها الجنرال الذي كان يركض من شاشة قرب مضجعه الراجمات تدك مدائننا وهو يعلك غليونه الأجنبي، أهذا إذن كل ما ظل من وطني؟ أيها الميتون قياما مشكول الدم على الفالة، خذ دموعي إلى البحر يا شعر، واغسل حجارتها من غبار الطحالب، جرت جرار سنيني إلى بدخ الكائنات، تسير وتكتبني في زفير الكتابة هذا البهاء الذي يتكوكب.
Now this is another extract from Adnan's very world famous, certainly in the Arab world, 550-page poem, which he wrote partly when he was in a prison camp during his fighting in the Iran-Iraq War. And a few of the lines from here have been translated by Elias Karmis as well. So, the Mongols come, riding our skinny horses, bursting into our blood that's blue as ink and red as a bloodshot eye. Cannons come, informers come, and British soldiers creep into Shah Alam's house. As the Umayyad armies withdraw from Surat al-Fath, I point to the horizon, black with aircraft droppings, and Aboud guffaws while showing the hole in his jacket where the war went through. Oh, you, General, monitoring from a screen next to your bed, the mortars pounding our cities, while chewing the stem of your foreign pipe. Is this all that's left of my homeland? You dead people, rise up, and would you have the courtesy to return my pitchfork? My tears are stones, take them to the sea, rinse them in poetry, from the stained urn that displays me to the creatures of the universe, I leak out in words as an exhalation of glory turned into stars.
أفتح ألبوم الصحبي وأبكي من ضاعوا في ليل الجبهات المدن الذكرى. لماذا تشطرني الحرب إلى نصفين؟ لماذا يغدو الليل كجزمة جندي أثقلها الطين تجوس بصدري؟ سأجرب أن أكتب بالعتمة ملتصا ضوء التنوير. ابتدأ القصف شديدا هذه الليلة، فاهتزت علب السردين بنا لسنا أحياء أو أمواتا، ولدت وتفويت ولا خلل في القوة والقدر.
I open the album and cry for friends who were lost in the night of the battlefields, the cities, the memories. Why does the war shatter me in two? Why does night stamp like a soldier's boot on my chest? I try to write in darkness, stealing light from flares. The bombardment began heavily tonight, shaking us like sardines in a can. We are not dead or alive, and I was born and died, and no mules or soldiers killed, no losses or gains.
تطوفنا نشرات الأخبار على الموجات الأخرى تتصادم فوق صخور الملجأ، حاملة زبدا وعواصم بالميني جوب، حروبا قتلى بالجملة، ثوارا منفيين، إعلانا عن مسحوق الحب العذري بالشوكولاتة. وغدا من يدري أين سندفن، من لا يملك شبرا أو وطنا قد لا يملك قبرا أو كفنا. تدفننا جرافات الأمريكان بعيدا في الصحراء، فتخرجنا حيوانات البر، فتخرجنا حيوانات البر، فيدفننا الأهل، فتخرجنا جرافات الحرس الجمهوري، فيدفننا
News bulletins make us switch to other frequencies, which crisscross the stony trench, carrying scum and capital cities in miniskirts, wars, mass murder, exiled revolutionaries, an advert for a platonic, chocolate-favoured aphrodisiac. And tomorrow, who knows where we will be buried? We, who have no handspan of land and can own no grave or shroud. The American bulldozers bury us far away in the desert. Then the wild animals dig us up, so our families bury us again. Then the bulldozers of the Republican Guard dig us up. Then we are buried by the I want to show you this photo of my father, because in a way he's the reason that Adnan and I are here. He fought in the First World War, and he was wounded at Kut al Amara on the 11th of January 1917. So it's about nearly a month, or just over a month, 100 years to the day. And he met my mum much later, and he was nearly 50 when I was born. And he died when I was a few months old of a coronary thrombosis. So I never knew him, and I've always tried to find him in some traces of him in some way. And that led to me writing a book about how I imagined his time in the First World War in Iraq. And this was one of the first poems that I wrote. Father, my face is made from yours, your jaw, your weak right eye, my shin bones from your leg, shattered in the moonlight as you supervise the digging of the trench at Kut al Amara. Years on, your long dead smile watched us from walls, sideboards, from our mother's dressing table, casting a shadow round her heart, like your shadow in the album, as you pointed the box brownie towards the bridge of boats at Kurna, the army camp at Kut. Father, those splinters of bone were your salvation, hard shards from which I sprang, with shared ancestry, looking for you. And it's really through this search for my father that I met Adnan, because, and we have been working together ever since about 2010, I think. I was giving a reading at the Troubadour in Earl's Court, and Adnan was in the audience, and I saw someone jumping up and down with excitement, saying, she's talking about my country. From then on, we've translated each other's work and know each other's families very well, and it's been very enriching, certainly for me. And the structure of Taking Mesopotamia is a series of diary entries from World War I. I did a lot of research at the National Archives, the war diaries of the South Wales borderers, which my father was in. And this is one of the, and also some of the diary entries are based on recent conflicts in Iraq that I got from news reports, basically. Some are found poems. So this one is in my father's voice, my father's imagined voice, and his name was Tom Lewis. August 1916, Tom. The land and sky trick us with mirages of enemy troops becoming trestle tables which float over the ground before turning into camels and disappearing into thin air. We can't tell how many or how close they are. We dive for cover, frightened by bushes. Sunset behind a mound is a flare of shrapnel over shepherds watching their flocks under the stars. These are the rocks where Cain heard God's voice sound, saying, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. And here's a poem that I written for Adnan, and it's based on a long interview I did with him in 2010. And the end of the poem links back to my own Welsh heritage. Swimmer for Adnan al Sayegh. Trust water, and it will carry you. After all, it was our first element. Our aqueous cells cry out to be reunited, go tapping along inside our skin, like blind prisoners, finding ways back to fluidity. Now my hands push forwards through the gather into a nimbus of breaking air, and I see you move deeper to a region of mud and reeds, or your fleet shape harrow sketchy clouds as you break the wet lid of the river, spray the Euphrates with falling diamonds. Back then, what you fled was the midday heat in your father's sick bed, your mother frayed by the burden of constant want. Later, the soldier's wrath, the dirt of spent cartridges after they'd done their bloody business. You, a poet, darkened by contaminants, restless with visions, Nimrod's inheritor, buoyed by rifts of thought as stateless as the fish you swam with. Now you have another river. Feel the pull of other tides that have brought strangers to the weather of exile since the Romans. Your voice travels out, heaped and precious, as the Rhondda coals my father's uncles shovelled, miners like those who sang to Jesus as Tanoeth waters rose up the shaft towards them, their wives leaving spitting kettles to run from their kitchens, drawing shawls tighter, suddenly old as light pearled, the pit's last candle drooping like a hanged bird. And this is a diary poem from modern times. I interviewed a girl called Georgia Watts, who was a mechanic in the UK Army on active service in Basra in 2007. I interviewed her in 2010. So May 2010, Georgia. The first question I asked her was, why did you join the library? Why did you join the army? I joined on a whim. I think it started as a bet over a game of pool. Loads of big brothers to look after us girls on nights out. Also respect that you're just one of the lads when it comes to work. I ran the workshop for broken down tanks day and night. There's no time off in war. I was used a lot, as tanks always need a mechanic on board. You can get killed at any time. It's hard to explain what fear in people's faces looks like, even the biggest, hardest men. The fall of Kut, 1916. Their officers board the boat for Baghdad, leaving them stranded with no superiors. Horses, dogs and cats, all killed and eaten. Now the remaining soldiers scrounge cigarettes and wait, straining their eyes against the glare as enemy forces trickle into Kut. Then the 100-mile march over parched land, the gnawing of bull penis whips, the bootless, hatless stagger through burning desert, falling under the two-handed swipe of the captors' swords, throats stuffed with sand, heads caved in by rifle butts.
War, 21st century war. B-52s and clusters too, the skies have gone berserk. Mujahideen are on the ground to do the dirty work. The Taliban is on the run. The better side is winning, but some mad mullahs, sticky ends, some warlords' new beginning. The holy shit has hit the fan. It's chaos and destruction. There's nothing there but heat and dirt, dust, but some folks love eruption. It's where the wild things are, revenge in tooth and claw, the very first 21st century war. The holy shit has hit the fan. It's serious shit and bullshit. It's spin and lies, surprise, surprise, nobody's caught the culprit. It's we scream, therefore you scream. It's kids caught in the slipstream. It's airstrikes versus push bikes. It's goat tracks versus AWACS. Who knows what's in store? It's not the last, that's sure. It's just the first. Blessed and cursed, boom and burst, starve and thirst, must get worse. Just the first 21st century war. And of course, that invasion of Afghanistan was mainly intended to catch a certain person, and they never caught that certain person until very much later. I had a sort of different idea about where he might be, so I'm going to sing a song about that. If I can get this mic to do what it's supposed to do, and sit down. So easy, all you have to do is just read your poem, but when you've got to read your words, play the chords, drives you a bit crazy. Osama bin Laden's at the bottom of my garden. I don't like to simply stand and stare, cross-legged underneath a tree, smiling quite outrageously. Can't think how he possibly got there. Bin Laden's in my garden, just off London Square. Osama bin Laden's not the kind to beg your pardon, not the kind to own up to his deeds. Should I persuade him to confess? Should I phone the SAS? Should I take him down a cup of tea? Bin Laden's in my garden in SW3. Osama bin Laden is a terrorist and a hard man. He's got a big bag, got a big black beard down to his knee. Islam's fundamental fringe, 6 feet from my wee bins. Should I run or ring the BBC? Bin Laden's in my garden, not very far from me. Osama bin Laden is a fiend I could enlarge on. A rabid persecutor of the West. More evil far than Genghis Khan, sat there on my new-mown lawn. Should I place him under citizen's arrest? Bin Laden's in my garden and I'm trying to think what's best. Now Osama bin Laden, to use departmental jargon, was one of ours in 1984. The scourge of Soviet conscript lads, camped beside my lily pads. Bin Laden is non grata now for sure. Bin Laden's in my garden, oh what a lovely war. Osama bin Laden sent me hashish in a carton, in the diplomatic bag, marked for a friend. And now he wants the favour back. He thinks I'll hide him, that's a fact. But I've got truth and freedom to defend. Bin Laden's in my garden, he must be round the bend. Osama bin Laden's at the bottom of my garden, 'cause I was once his minder, don't you know? I'll take this pistol from my drawer. I'll fit the silencer before I aim it where my rambling roses grow. In gardens in my garden, time for him to go. In gardens in my garden, I'm afraid he's got to go. Are you all quite comfortable and you don't need to stretch your legs or do anything else? Jenny's got a little announcement to make before we carry on. It's small.
Yes, I just wanted to say that Adnan and I usually, before we read any poems in translation, are quite punctilious about saying who translated them. But in order to not hold up the flow, we've printed a little sheet here. And the people who've helped us a lot are Alard Jumar, Dr. Euphemius Karnis, Dr. Kadam Abbas Kadim, and is that it? Alard Jumar, yes. Okay, that's almost. So it's Nina, I think. This is another little diary poem, and this was an article in The Guardian. It was a Christian Iraqi who was interviewed in The Guardian in 2009, and her name was Mariam. And I sort of, it's quite difficult, you know, the idea of bearing witness or speaking for somebody, speaking in somebody's voice without asking their permission. But this is some of Mariam's words from the article and some of my words. Suddenly I saw my son across the square, standing lost, unprepared, under the horizontals of choking smoke from exploding grenades. I screamed at him above the jostling crowd, but he just stood there, head bent, brows crouched in a frown. I called again, but my voice fell away, and then we were caught in the crossfire between the Mahdi army and the Irish Guards. We realised then it was too late to go anywhere. Kurna, our birthplace, was a conflagration where Saddam ruled, Adam and Eve sinned, and Alexander died. That area of Iraq, Kurna, is supposedly the Garden of Eden, where the original Garden of Eden was. This one, Hilda's going to help me with, and it's called
I think I'll remain seated, is that okay?
Yeah. It's called Non-Military Statements. 1. Neutralisation
Killing soldiers,
is part of any war, as are soft targets.
bombing civilians,
2. Life deprivation
killing anyone,
and surgical strikes
shelling and bombing,
can be justified. 3. Extraordinary rendition
kidnapping,
of illegal combatants
people we don't like,
is necessary in the war against terror. 4. Enhanced coercive interrogation
torture,
is used to get the truth about weapons of mass destruction.
biological, chemical, nuclear, and imaginary,
5. Collateral damage
civilian deaths,
is unfortunate, as is the number of non-viable combat personnel.
wounded soldiers,
6. The number of incidents of friendly fire
accidentally killed by own troops,
is regrettable, as is the body count of non-operatives.
dead soldiers,
7. During war, more money can be generated through sales of weapons than in times of permanent pre-hostility.
peace,
Salam.
Peace.
Salam.
As-salam. One of the other people I interviewed at length was an Iraqi doctor from Mosul, and one of the things he told me about was, I said to him, did you have a garden when you were a child? I sort of threw these random questions. And he said that he had. He had a lovely garden, and his dad had given him a little corner of it. And he grew his things there, and when he was about 6 or 7, and they never amounted to very much, but once he actually did manage to grow a cucumber, and he was very, very proud of it. And he immediately cut it and rushed and gave it to his dad, and his dad gave him a dinar for it, and which was sort of wealth beyond imagination to a 7-year-old boy. So this is Notes from Exile for Ramez Ghazalul 1, Cucumbers. In this Garden of Eden, where Genghis and Alexander left their marks, and Cain murdered Abel. In this garden, this same garden, I tended my little patch of soil, growing melons with their showy yellow trumpets, and cucumbers, water holders, tubes of coolness shining in the desert. Before the flood, before the king list, known to Kurds, Arabs and Turkomans, Muslims, Christians, Jews and Chaldeans, Armenians, Yazidis, atheists, children of Mesopotamia who might have run at first light to cut the best one, saying as I did, Father, I've grown this for you. Another question that I asked Ramez was, what do Iraqis feel about the invasion of Iraq in 2003 by the US and UK troops? And he got quite irritated with me, and he said, what do you mean by Iraqis? And this is where this list of Kurds, Arabs, Turkmens, Muslims, Christians, Jews, because it's such a patchwork of ethnicities. And of course people have different opinions about it. So, and so now we're going to go back to Adnan.
حبل غسيل. على قوس الصباح تنشر المرأة غسيل أيامها، تتلمس ثيابه المبقعة بغبار الحرب ونعاس شرشفها الفاضح. فجأة تختلس النظرات بسطح جارتها وتشر ثيابها السود، فتمسك قلبها بيديها كليمونة معصورة وتهبط مسرعة إلى غرفة النوم متشبثة بعنق زوجها ويفرك عينيه مذهولا لمرأى زوجته بالثياب السود.
Clothesline. On a morning rainbow, a woman hangs the laundry of her days, stroking the drowsy pleasure of her sheets and his clothes that are stained with the dust of war. Suddenly, she glances over at a nearby roof to where her neighbour is hanging up her black clothes. And the woman clasps her heart tight as a squeezed lemon and quickly goes down to the bedroom and clings to her husband's neck, while he is rubbing his eyes dumbstruck at the sight of his wife wearing black clothes.
طلقة. يهبط الغصن ثانية ثم يصعد والبلبل المتأجح منشغل بغناء. طلقة، جثة، يقف الغصن مرتجفا لحظة ثم يسكن، تصمت في الغاب كل البلابل.
The shot. On the swaying branch, a nightingale is singing tunefully. A shot, a corpse, the branch is still, trembles for a moment, then stops. In the forest, all the nightingales are silent. And that, I just like to say, was first translated by Surah Hussein, who's written a comparison of Adnan's work with the great war poet, my favourite poet actually, Wilfred Owen. And the book's called Seeds of Bullets, and I think it's on sale here.
تشكيل. أرسم دبابة ووجهها إلى شرفة جنرال. أرسم غيمة وأقول تلك بلادي، أرسم لغما وأضعه في خزانة اللغة، أرسم عنكبوتا وأحنطه على باب الأحزان، أرسم أبي وأقول له لماذا تركتني وحيدا أمام اللئام، أرسم مائدة وأدعو إليها طفولتي، أرسم نايا وأنسل من ثقوبه إلى القرى البعيدة، أرسم شارعا وأتسكع فيه مع أحلامي، أرسم قلبي وأسأله أين أنت؟
And that short poem of Adnan's, I've made into a song. It's a poem called Sketch, and it's a poem about homesickness. Adnan was forced to leave Iraq and go to many different places before he finally settled in England. So this is a song about that. But I felt it should have a little bit of Arabic in it, so I persuaded him that we would have an Arabic chorus, and the Arabic chorus consists of more or less one word in Arabic, which I thought I might teach you so you could all join in with it. It means I'm sketching or I sketch, and it's quite simple. If I've managed to learn it and I don't know any Arabic, I'm sure you could. So we're going to kind of learn that now. And the word is arsimu. Arsimu. Give it a go. Arsimu. Arsimu. And dear me, just a minute. Okay. And the tune is something like this. Arsimu. 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 Something like that. Arsimu, 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 arsimu. Give it a go. Arsimu, 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 arsimu. Go. Arsimu, 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 arsimu. Excellent. I draw a tank, aim it at the general's balcony. I draw a cloud, tell myself that this is my country. I draw a landmine, hide it in a cupboard full of words. I draw a spider, embalm it on a door that's locked with tears. Arsimu, 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 arsimu. No time. Arsimu, 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 arsimu. I draw my father. Why did he abandon me to brutes? I draw a flute, slip to my old haunts along its notes. I draw a street, wander down that street inside my dreams. I draw my heart, oh heart, where are you now? Not here it seems. Arsimu, 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 arsimu. That last verse again, you should have written along a poem really. I draw my father. Why did he abandon me to brutes? I draw a flute, slip to my old haunts along its notes. I draw a street, wander down that street inside my dreams. I draw my heart, Heart, where are you now? Not here it seems last time. Asimu, 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 Asimu. And now, Gilgamesh says,
As for humans, their days are numbered. Whatever they do is just a puff of wind.
Me again. This is a poem, again prompted by a television program I saw at the time of the Gulf War, about a pilot who had to bail out and land in Iraq. It's called Gulf. Silence, empty as no man's dream. I'm a pink body hanging, suspended in my baby colour. Am I born? Oh, mother, let me be born on my cord in this sapphire vacancy. Blue. I'm tilting, turning, falling in touchless, fruitless, birdless, say nothing, know nothing, be nothingness of blue, mother of all blue. Arab carpet, dyed in shades of earth, floats up, flattens to a threadbare faded brow, embossed with dunes, tracks, stones. Blueness retreats, holds up in the sky. The distant hills are green. It's a perfect day on the plain. Someone is playing a pipe. There are tents, no, tabernacles, bells, long-legged, shaggy goats, biblical, strolling with their keepers. A cloud of dust is moving towards me. Gunfire, verily, even here. Trucks mirage from nowhere. The ground shakes, rough, ordering tongues. One fighter down. This is the mother of all reality.
My next poem is based on First World War Army slang, and if you look in your programme, you've got a little crib which will tell you what all the slang means. I don't know whether I should attempt to read it in another voice. I was thinking of doing a sort of London accent because I grew up in Hammersmith, which was actually quite rough when I was growing up. I know it's quite posh now. But then it wasn't very rough, never very posh, it was really quite rough. So this is hints for the new recruit for. It's not that hard to get yourself a suit ticket or even a rooty gong, especially in Messapalonica fighting Johnny. If you have to join the suicide club, take precautions such as making pretty sure you're never the third man. That's a sure way to get picked, and you'll find yourself pushing up the daisies too sweet. Get yourself a blighty one, you'll be in velvet. Better to be on the peg than on the wire, although both best avoided. If you're a base swaller, get busy with the bluebell and blanco. Send off a few quick firers, and if it's Thursdays, get ready for a poet's. But make sure you keep your tin opener in good order, or you risk an early visit to the stiff, smoked haddock. It's a rhyming slang. And now we're going to read an extract from a longer poem that's written by Adnan. That actually appears in a film, and some music has been written for it by a wonderful Egyptian oud player and composer called Tariq Bashir, and it's been arranged by and produced by Roland Privet. So.
أفونا الدفة تدري أين ولا أوتونا بيشتم والمركب سكران. يا إنانا كيف نعود الأوروك وقد دمرها طوفان. تتهادى فينا اللجة تلو اللجة شطعان تطوي شطعان. ما كنا نحسب أن المنفى سيطول ورحلتنا لم تجني غير الخسران. ما كنا نحسب أن المنفى سيطول ورحلتنا لم تجني غير الخسران. فتعالي يكن الشعر لنا وطنا والحب الناي الكأس وما أجملها من أوطان بل ما أبدعها ما أوسعها من أوطان.
When we surface, we find our boat is rudderless. Not even Lieutenant Pishtin can steer a drunken boat. Oh, Inanna, how do we get back to Uruk, destroyed by the flood? We are washed from depths to depths, passing riverbank after riverbank. We didn't know that exile would go on so long, that our journey would only bring loss. So come close, let poetry be our country. Poetry, love, the flute and wine. How beautiful these countries are, how creative, how expansive.
Beautiful.
And this came from an interview with a woman soldier that I saw. Corporal Hannah Campbell lost her leg in an Iraqi mortar attack. 18 months later, in April 2012, she ran the London Marathon with a prosthetic leg. And this is something she said to the interviewer: I've got to learn to love my high heel leg. So this is learning to love my high heel leg. Losing my leg was the worst thing. I couldn't even bath my daughter. My husband has got me through. Now I can wear Manolo Blahniks. I couldn't even bath my daughter. I've got to get my weight down. Now I can wear Manolo Blahniks. I've started running for the first time. I've got to get my weight down. I'm going to be running for charity. I've started running for the first time to help limbless soldiers like myself. I'm going to be running for charity. It's hard, but I have to keep trying to help limbless soldiers like myself. I feel now the leg is a part of me. It's hard, but I have to keep trying. My husband has got me through. I feel now the leg is a part of me, though losing it was the worst thing.
One of the things about wars previously, and still the case, is that more men die than women. And that leaves heterosexual women with a problem, because there aren't enough men to go around very often. Particularly the case, for example, in the Soviet Union in the after the Second World War. There just weren't enough men. Anyway, this is sort of about that theme. It's called War Widow, and it's a poetic form called a villanelle, probably familiar with. An unexciting man, warm and quiet, in bed, safe, he dreamed he'd lost his breath. At 91, it was a perfect death. Wednesday, dear. She'd squeezed his arm. Your turn. He's shamming sleep, she told herself. I'll make it. An unobliging man, though warm and quiet. On her feet now, wandering to the kitchen, she thought, one day he won't wake up. Oh yes, At 91, it'd be a perfect death. She leaned inside the oven door, confused, shuffled back and jogged him. There's no milk, pet. An unresponsive man, warm and quiet. He looked her in the eye and seemed to grin. Jack, it's Wednesday. Jack? Run out of breath. At 91, it is a perfect death. First time she's cried for 60 years. The day that telegram. Some things you don't forget. This unexciting man, warm and quiet, at 91, has had the perfect death. In wars, and in hard moments in wars, people cry for their mothers. So we're going to do 3 poems now about each of our mothers, starting with Adnan.
لأمي إذا انسدل الليل حزن شفيف كحزن الحدائق وهي تلملم في آخر الليل أوراقها الذابلة. لأمي سجادة للصلاة وخوف قديم من الدركي تخبئنا كلما مر في الحي تحت عباءتها وتخاف علينا عيون النساء وهول المساء وغدر الزمان. لأمي عاداتها لا تفارقها فعند الغروب ستشعل حرملها عاطرا بالتمائم يطرد عن بيتنا الشر كانت تقول وعين الحسود.
For my mother by Adnan al Sayegh. With night comes a muffled grief, like a neglected garden, and she is out late, gathering her faded leaves. My mother has an inbuilt fear of policemen, and a prayer rug she hides us under when they patrol the neighbourhood. She fears the sharp tongues of other women, night terrors and the treachery of time. For her, old habits die hard. Every dusk she burns her pungent herbs. The scent drives evil from our house and envious eyes, she used to say.
لأمي مغزلها يغزل العمر خيطا رفيعا من الآه. كانت تبل إصابعها إذا انقطع الخيط من حسرة ثم تفتله. فمن ذا الذي سوف تفتل خيط الزمان إذا ما تقطع بالآه يا قرة العين من ذا. فما زلت في حضنها الناحلة القروية المشاكسة أبكي إذا دار مغزلها بشجون وأسمعها في الليالي الوحيدات تجدو بصوت رخيم. لبس خصر العجيج وخصر ماروج أنا روجني زماني قبل ماروج ولك لا تخط الماء يا روج بعد بالروح عتبة ويا الأحباب. لبس بالراس هندية وشيلة ودموع العين ما بطلا وشيلة. تمنيت الترف وبصرها خلسة ثم أرنو لقلبي أما زال يجيك موالها كلما دار فيك الزمان ودار ومرت على دربك الآنسات الأنيقات يا صاحبي ويترن لمرآتها جدول الشيب يا للشماتة ينساب مبتعدا في المروج. فمن يرجع العمر هذا السراب الجميل ولو مرة.
To sing. There's a bit in this next bit of this poem which requires singing, but Hilda was working on a song, but it hasn't materialised.
Working on another song from
So
Advan's, but we were having some difficulty with the translation, weren't we?
Yeah.
We were. It's very difficult, but anyway, I don't know. I might attempt a song, but I might not. For my mother. A wheel to spin eternity, a fine line of groans. She wets her fingers, and if her sighs break the thread, she twists it back together. But who will mend the thread of time if it is broken by a sigh? Oh, my darling, who will? I'm sitting on her lap, a cheeky little country boy. Sorry. I cry when she spins grief, and on lonely nights I hear her soft voice singing. He wears a waistcoat of opal and garnet, and I grow old before my time. For waves don't muddy the water, the soul still reproaches lovers. On his head an Indian turban, and tears don't stop falling. I wish that my darling. Stealthily I look at her, then I ask my heart, does her singing still affect you? And when you're led astray, and pretty girls cross your path, oh my friend. As she is looking in her mirror, a stream of greying hair, gloating, glides slowly across the meadows which restore youth, that beautiful mirage. Can you come back just once?
And I had a mother too. Doesn't have much to do with Winston. So this is from my mother Winifred. I'm alone, naked, on my birthday, in the tower you built for me. Your great-grandchildren have swum in from the sea. You wouldn't believe how strong I've grown since you departed, how nothing that you gave to me was wasted after all, how carefully I've made this card. Thank you for the birthday. Good love to you from me. And here's a song. If this guitar's in tune, it would be a miracle. But let's hope so. Not too bad, actually. I didn't know when I was born that everything could be so wrong. I didn't know about hunger, war, poverty, crime. I didn't know about obscene wealth, but as I grew up, I saw for myself I'm a white-haired woman. I've been here quite some time. I'm a white-headed woman, white-headed woman. I'm a white-headed woman sitting on the edge of time. I missed one war, nearly missed another. The bombs fell down and we had to take cover. Folks said, hell, we're never gonna do that again. But a few years later, Uncle Sam is in Korea, Vietnam, other side of the world, and it felt like more of the same. I'm a white-headed woman, yes, white-headed woman. I'm a white-headed woman. It felt like more of the same. I'm a white-headed woman, a white-headed woman. I'm a white-headed woman, sitting on the edge of time. Then, much further down the line, some politicians thought it fine to rain down shock and awe on old Baghdad. Some guys from the east took out the towers. Blair and Bush had to show their powers. I'm a white-haired woman, said not in my name. I'm a white-headed woman, yes, white-headed woman. I'm a white-headed woman, said not in my name. I'm a white-headed woman, I'm a white-headed woman, I'm a white-headed woman, sitting on the edge of time. They opened up Pandora's box, let out the dish of plague and pox. The east in flames, the beds a watery grave. Their only answer, sad and senseless, bombs and drones, barbed wire fences. I'm a white-haired woman, I said not in my name. I'm a white-headed woman, I'm a white-headed woman, I'm a white-headed woman, and I said it's a crying shame. I'm a white-headed woman, a white-headed woman, I'm a white-headed woman, sitting on the edge of time. In Dunkirk, Calais, in the mud, those refugees of flesh and blood. Let's charter Eurostar, let's bring them home. what but palace and the Shah. She's going to the bed and bore, and a white-haired woman say it can be done. I'm a white-headed woman, yes, I'm a white-headed woman. I'm a white-headed woman, and I say it should be done. I'm a white-headed woman, a white-headed woman. I'm a white-headed woman, sitting on me every time.
This is the last poem. What an amazing audience. The wise man Ruth advises Gilgamesh. You're wearing yourself out with all this stress. The Epic of Gilgamesh, tablet 10.
الرجل الحكيم أوتونا بشتم نسح جلجامش. لقد ألبست نفسك كل هذا الجهد. ملحمة جلجامش اللوح الخامس.
Gilgamesh, you're headed for an early grave. You're riddled with discontent. Yet your life could end at any moment, cut off like a reed in the reed bed.
يا جلجامش إنك تتجه لقبرك مبكرا. أنت مدجج بالسخط حتى أن حياتك قد تنتهي في أي لحظة مقطوعة كقصبة في سرير القصب.
The gorgeous young man, the lovely girl, in a flash, death could hack them down. Yet we go on grabbing as much as we can, feathering our own nests, squabbling over money, starting wars.
الشاب البهي الصبية المحببة قد يقطعهم الموت في ومضة إربا لكننا نستمر ما استطعنا في انتزاع ريش أعشاشنا متنازعين على النقود بادئين حروبا.
While all the time,
بينما طوال الوقت
the river rises
يطفو النهر
and floods.
ويفيض.
The mayfly skims the water.
ذبابة مايو تنزلق فوق الماء.
The sun blazes down on us.
الشمس تتوهج فينا
Each day,
كل يوم
until all of a sudden,
وفجأة
it's over.
ينتهي كل شيء.
It's over.
كل شيء.
And we'd like to finish with a quote from Albert Einstein. I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. A very prophetic verse.
That's it, folks. Thank you very much. Question and answer session. We're perfectly prepared to mingle until they throw us out, and we'll probably make our way to the bar. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.